Hi everybody, it's Janet and welcome to my craft room. It's Friday and I hope you've had a great week. It's time for my Fast Friday quick tips video, and today I thought I would talk a little bit about alcohol ink marker paper. And what I've got here are 4 different pretty common recommended cardstocks for markers, and most of them are made for markers. I've used all of them, and I used all of them fairly significantly over the years. That's why I have them in my stash. And so I thought I would take a look at them with you and just talk about what I like and don't like about them. I have a swatch of each of them using these 4 red markers. This is R89, R85, R81, R83, sorry, and R81. I did these off camera because this is supposed to be a quick tips video, so it takes a while to do the swatches. But I did each swatch exactly the same. I only put down each color once, where one color overtook another color, where those 2 layers were, and went over it one time. So not a lot of blending. This is just to lay it down and see what happens. Let's talk about Neenah Classic Crest cardstock, Solar White. This is not made specifically for the use of markers. It's one of the few that I have here that is not. And then I also did just a no-name white cardstock swatch. So this was just a piece of white cardstock I had in my stash. I have no idea where it came from, but definitely was not geared towards markers. So taking a look at these two, when I swatched them, I saw that actually the no-name white cardstock blended better than the Solar White did. You can see a very distinct line between the darkest and the next color, for example, compared to this one. However, it really came through on the other side. So that's telling you that there isn't as much ink staying on the top, and that is probably part of why it blended, not because it blended, but it just kind of sunk in. We've lost some of the color here because of that. It's not as dark as this and distinct as this. That's in my opinion. You may have a different opinion, and I want to say that too for all of this. This is just my opinion from my use of it. I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I'm not saying that it would be different for you. I'm just saying this is what I observe. So the Solar White is also much, much brighter white than this no-name cardstock. This is more gray, whereas this is nice and white. That's another thing you want to look for a marker paper, because that helps make the colors that you're using more true. So yeah, of these, I don't think I really love either one of them, to be honest with you, because this is just, you can get this to blend if you work on it more. I just did every one exactly the same, to be fair, and that's what I got. So not really that thrilled with either one, to be truthful. So next let's look at Strathmore marker. This paper, it says marker paper, smooth surface, and smooth is what you're going to want, because the smoother the paper, the easier the ink moves around, and also the easier it is to flick with your markers. So let's look at that swatch, and that's what it looks like. And it did a reasonable job between, again, blending the darkest and the next darkest color. Let's look at the back of it. It seeped through a little bit. It's not horrible, but there's quite a bit of seepage, and it compared to the Solar White, it's a lot more. But keep in mind, Solar White is 110 pound, and none of these other marker papers are 110 pound. They're lighter weight. I do see a bit of saturation, and saturation means kind of a bleaching effect, where the color is just not deep. You could see little bits of white coming through, and that's what I see quite a bit of in the Strathmore marker paper. Now, it's not all that uncommon that it does that, especially when you're working with darker to light colors. It just means that you almost are always going to have to do a second layer on those. Alright, so let's look at Spectrum Noir. In this color swatch, you can see again a very distinct difference between the darkest and the second darkest color. It's really quite severe. But these colors are dark and intense. There is a little bit less saturation, And I know if I go back and start blending these, it will blend out pretty nicely with a second coat. And by the way, I will go ahead and do a second coat on all these, and I'll show that at the very end too, so that we can see if a second coat matters and how much it matters. All right, and then finally, let's take a look at Express It blending card. That's right here. Here is my swatch. And again, we have a very, very harsh line between that darkest color and the next darkest color. But I do see distinct differences between the third and the second, third, and fourth colors. Many of these others, I kind of don't see the difference. So I know that too with this one, if I blend it a little more, it's going to probably be very nice. There isn't much saturation either here, so it's more of the ink staying on top. Let's look at that. We did get some seepage, but it's not too bad. Look at Spectrum Noir in comparison. That's a lot less seepage than this one. So let me do a second coat now off camera, and I'll come back and take a look at those. Alright, I'm back with my second coat, and I realize it might be hard to see this in any detail with the quality of my camera here, but I've kind of put them in the order of what I think is the best. So I started with No Name white cardstock. That is really blotchy, and you can see how bad that has gone through. It's almost like no difference between the top and the back. Then I'm going with Strathmore marker. But actually, nope, I'm going to change my mind on that. I'm going to go with Solar White. Just because I couldn't get a really decent blend between that dark and middle color. I worked on it a bit, and it got better, but it's still very distinct. The Strathmore marker didn't do too bad, actually. I think the blending is pretty decent. You can still see it a bit. Another round of coloring would probably get that to go away. So, but overall not so bad. Next I'm going to say Spectrum Noir marker, because you see how dark that bottom section is. It really retained that dark red color while we blend it out, and you see very little of the line here compared to the others. Like, take a look at Strathmore. You can still see, at least I can with my eyes, more of a line here than you can here. And then finally is the Express It. There really is not much for any line here at all that you can see. You can't see the marker strokes. Like here you can see the marker strokes, the dark strokes, the ends of those strokes. Here you really don't see that. It blends into one nice color. And I didn't have to work very hard for this. I just put on one more coat. That was it. And I would not need to go back and do this a third time with some of these, if not all of them. I would probably need to go back and do a third coat. So there you go. There is my samples. I hope this helps you make some decisions for yourself as to what to try or buy, because I know when I started coloring, I just didn't know what to do. There's so many opinions out there about what's best and what isn't, and that is in part because it's a personal choice and what you like to use. But I really think you cannot go wrong with Express It. It's the smoothest, it's the whitest and brightest. It keeps the ink up there on the top of the surface the longest. It's really made for this work, and it will help you improve your technique quicker than the other brands will, I think. So there you go. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you've had a great week, like I said, and I'll be back on Sunday with my Sunday Craft Talk video. But if you don't see me then I'll be back next Friday for another Quick Tips. See you later. Bye.